Hello. All right. So I am going to talk about community building again. I did a video a few weeks ago, but I hosted a sketch group, and some people that I knew actually that lived out here came out, and then some people I've never met came out, which was great. It was wonderful. And some of them are probably listening today to this video. They definitely listened to one I did yesterday. I think I missed a single day. I forget which day I missed, but I did miss a day in which I posted anything. Again, I feel that if as long as I post something, I'm okay. And I also have been giving myself a bit of a pass. Just generally speaking, I don't want to get too belabored by the challenge of putting a video every day. But there's a couple things that I've realized about just my daily schedule that I can probably get better about. Oh, and for what it's worth, I have my kids screaming and stuff in the background because it's the middle of the day, which is part of the reason why I'm always like, do I have time? Because right now all the kids are freaking shouting at the top of their lungs, and then usually my wife's like trying to calm them down, and then they'll like run into the room, and then it just becomes a bit of a mess. But I was looking at the time because I'm going to be traveling to go hang out with some friends of mine, and do some good old fashioned catch up with people that I haven't seen in a while, with a lot of the things that have gone on in my life. Specifically, I had a friend lose his home in the LA fires, and then I also had a really close friend of mine pass away, and then I had one of my best friend's brother pass away. So all of this in like the span of a few months. Um, yeah, it's been quite a year already, and so I'm going to be traveling, and I realized if I don't do this now, then I won't be. I don't know if I'll have time tonight because I'm going to be tuckered out. I was tired yesterday, and I was tired today just because my son has been keeping us up. He's been having nightmares, and so sleeping in our bed, but he's not a very good sleeper, meaning that he like knocks us around and stuff. So I'm like feeling extra tired, and a lot of opportunities are just starting to ramp up for me. So I was just starting to feel like, oh man, is it going to happen where I just don't do this and I kind of drop off? Because I've done this a couple times. And again, this is not a big deal. I don't think people are upset. I think it's absolutely great that people feel motivated and inspired and are happy to see that I do videos. But I don't think anyone feels that I'm obligated to. It's more of gratitude that I see. And I feel that way. I don't feel any pressure outside of that. But there is my internal pressure of why I do this in the first place. And I'll tell you kind of what it is. It's really this idea if I can do something consistently for 90 days, it becomes a genuinely good habit. And also just doing it has really brought me a lot of peace, and I don't know how else to describe it, but just feel good emotions, because I know that I'm doing something that's going to help people, and I know that it's good to just sit and paint, even if it's short. It's nice. It's therapeutic. I've been drawing back in my sketchbook. I hosted a sketch group yesterday, and that's kind of what I want to talk a bit more about. But yeah, it's of great value to stay committed to the things that you want to try to do. And so part of what I like to do is also build communities. And that's kind of what I talk about now. And so when I was living in Nicaragua, it was just going to be a challenge. A couple reasons. One, I don't speak Spanish fluently, and I'm still learning. And maybe in time, I will be able to build this out. Um, and where I was living at the time, there just weren't enough people like that would even know what a sketch group even can be. A lot of Nicaraguans, absolutely work for a living. You feel me? Like they have hard labor work. They are a developing country, so a lot of people, try to do what they can do to try to make ends meet. So it's very reasonable to assume that sketch groups just wouldn't happen. And if I did have, I only know like one or maybe two people that would have came out, and that could have been enough. But usually, what makes sketch groups great is to really bring a large group of community of artists together to hang out. Um, I actually did a good job when I was living in a small town called San Juan del Sur in um, in Nicaragua because it was a town that's also populated with expats, and there's a good group of people who actually do like to do art. And actually, one of them is an incredible illustrator and a buddy of mine that we talk pretty often. And yeah, it was great. It was great to have it there, and we would get like 5 or 6 people. So and the language barrier was less of an issue because I don't need to worry about speaking Spanish, right? These expats, some of them came from Canada, from the US. So it really wasn't as much of a challenge. It was actually very enjoyable. But we moved out of that little area. And so now that I am in Florida, I am able to go out and build that community once again. And sure enough, there was about, I think it was 7 of us total that showed up, and it was good. It was a good time. We all had a good chat and talked about video games and movies, and it was really nice. We started talking about arts. I gave some feedback to someone who was like asking for some input on some of the stuff that they were doing for their original project, and I gave them some feedback. Because that's what sketch group's about. It's not just about socializing; it's about helping each other out and really um, building a vibe where people are there to help and encourage each other to grow. So I'm going to be traveling to California, and I'm going to be doing a memorial sketch group for my close friend who passed away because he used to go to these sketch groups that we used to host. And a lot of the people who are going are now senior to leads to art directors on many incredible projects um, that many of you guys know and love. And it's a wonderful thing to kind of see that where I'm going to be meeting up with some of my buddies, and we're just all people who did really well ultimately. And I think it's because of that sense of community. Again, some of these people that are gone with me or going with me are the kinds of people who have helped me in hard times, not just like career wise, just financially. And these are also people who taught me a lot about what I am as an artist, like what I have to offer as an artist. And it just kind of became this very clear thing to me that sketch group is something that I love to have wherever I'm at. It doesn't matter where I be. And I think when I was living in California, we just didn't do sketch group nearly as much, mainly because a lot of people now are working, and we had other ways to hang out with each other. We found other ways to just hang out and be friends. Like it didn't have to always be a sketch endeavor. It was fine that we can just be friends. And I think that was part of the goal of like the sketch group originally was that we were not really anything. And so sketching was just a great way to communicate and bring more awesome artists to come hang out with us. And as we became our own, valuable assets in this industry, it became less necessary to have to, sketch to hang out. But what we would still do is still find time to hang out just because it was so important to us to stay in contact and be friends. I remember one of my buddies, we call him Red. We'd had like a hangout where, yeah, we were just hanging out. It was whiskey and cigars. It was really nice. And he told me, he's like, man, I really needed this because he's doing a great job working over at Riot, and he just works and he has a kid and he just feels like he's either doing family stuff or work stuff. So just having a day where he's just broing out, just hanging out with the bros felt nice. And last night just reminded me of the kind of good times of just meeting people or just all having good laughs or just joking. And, there's one kid that was there that was really cracking me up. Like he was very young, but he was just saying stuff that clearly was just like he was playing into his young age. Like it was just really funny. And I like that. I was like, dude, this is great. And then at the end he was very formal. He's like, it was very nice to meet you, and it was an honor. And I was like, what? This little goofball trying to be honorable. And we were giving him a hard time too because it was funny. I bought food for everyone, and he was like, yeah, I'm very picky. He just says he's picky. So funny. Just like obviously socially awkward, right? But it was kind of warranted and it was welcomed. I loved it. And it just made me think like this is the kind of thing that spawns fun friendships, long lasting friendships. Yeah, and some of my students arrived, and it was really cool to see them in person, and I really loved it. I really loved it, and it was nice, genuinely a good time. And I was telling them, hey, like, I'm going to be traveling this next week, and maybe we could try to do every like twice a month. That would be great. And these folks drove out from Orlando, which is almost a 2 hour drive to come out, and they're like, dude, I was like, I would have walked here if I could, because you could tell these folks are yearning for community, and it just again reminded me of when I built the community out in California, the OC, and how I remember I did the sketch group. I did the sketch group, and it started off. It was like maybe 5 to 7 people, similar to this. It wasn't that many, and this is in like the OC. This is like the hotbed of the gaming industry, and yet nobody showed up. And I remember it grew to the point where it was almost hundreds of people, and on average, 50 to 70 people would show up to these sketch groups, and they were fun. They were in these incredible events. We would do stuff like we would play drawing games, we would play actual video games. They became less and less sketch groupy, but they became more of like, sketch festivals, and it was fun and it was great. And what I was telling these guys, like I just at some point I was becoming an event planner. I didn't want to do that, but I remember one of the sketch groups, or I'm sorry, one day after I stopped doing the sketch groups. I think I did them for about a year, and I just stopped because it was just a lot of work. And those sketch groups that I did were like once a month. That felt good at that time, especially for the size. And this guy ran into me, and he was talking to me about it, and he's like, "Oh man, I missed your sketch groups, man. They were so fun. It was a great place to meet people and just do art." He's like, "You should do them again." And I said, "Nah, I'm good. Like, it's just a lot of work, you know." And he said something. He's like, "Well, like people need these sketch groups. Like, people really love them, and there's a lot of engagement, and they're just really great way to connect with people. So it's like unfortunate that you're stopping." And I looked at this person and I said to them, "Well, look, man. There's no reason why you can't start up the sketch groups or you can't build the sketch groups. You know, I'm building the sketch groups because I really wanted them, but now it's come to the point where I just can't do it because I'm always overworked and I have a lot of kids. And he said to me, he's like, "Well, you're a lot more established, and it's just going to be easier for someone like you to do it." And I hear that a lot. I hear it's like, "Well, it's going to be easier for someone like you. Hey, it's going to be easier. It's going to be easier." And I always try to remind people it wasn't always easier. What are you talking about? Because even before I hosted these sketch groups, these really popular big ones, like I said, I used to just host sketch groups with just close friends of mine. That's it. And those, just our small group, would easily become 15 to 20 people. So that's why I know that it's possible even if you're not quote unquote famous. And here's the interesting thing. I just talked about how my buddy Rob passed away and that we're doing a sketch group, memorial. Well, my buddy Rob worked at Blizzard and he would join our sketch group and we were nobodies. He just heard about it and just joined because us artists do seek out these types of things. And if we hear there's a really cool event, we're going to go, you know, especially if it becomes more and more popular and it demonstrates more and more value. People will attend these events that you might think are impossible to host unless you have some street cred. And, sure enough, we hang out. We're having a great conversation at the sketch group that I had yesterday. And one of the artists was like, "Hey, I have like a venue that we can do it in Orlando," because we drove up from Orlando, and I was like, honestly, I would love to go out there. We'll just kind of do it back and forth. We'll kind of go here and we'll go there. And he's like, yeah, we can like rent out this bar. We can get TVs in there. We can game. You know, we can sketch. We can turn on lights. We can really take over. And I was like, that sounds awesome. And it can actually be awesome. I have a feeling if this is maintained over the next few months, definitely within a year, it can actually become this incredibly amazing sketch group that happens to be in South Florida. And all it took was just some people wanting to make it happen. But if you just sit there and expect things to happen, and you say to me, listen, it's easier for you or it's harder for me, I will always say, I believe you. But that's why it's never going to happen, because you believe it too. What I'm not saying is that it's impossible. And what I'm not saying is that it isn't going to be a bit of work. What I'm not saying is that it doesn't take some time. I'm saying that it does all of these things. It is going to take some time. Like I said, even when I was well known, the very first sketch group that I did as a well-known artist, because I wanted to bring them back again, were like it was like yeah, like less than 7 or 8 people. It was very small. And then after about a year, it grew to almost 100 people. And I think my lesson moving forward is if it starts to get that big, I think what I'll do is just RSVP, and you just can't go. You gotta RSVP or you don't, or creates alternate cells that people can run and host themselves. That is the conundrum that I'll try to solve if it ever gets that big, because I do like it nice and tight, but I also don't want to prevent it from growing into something beautiful. So I'll cross that bridge when I get there. Anyway, I got a meeting in a little bit. Thought I'd just do this before my meeting, because again, I was feeling like, oh shoot, I might not do this until the evening. And even if this isn't a 30-minute, 40-minute, 1 hour talk like you guys usually like to listen to, the YouTube metrics have spoken. You guys love the long form, and so I'm gonna try to find more time to do long form. But what I will say, I have a buddy helping me make some shorts that can help promote some of the long form. So perhaps there will be a good way to kind of really keep me on long form for the greater good. But the only way I can imagine me getting better at this or making time for this is truly doing it before the day begins. I think that's the only way that I can do long form consistently. I've been working out early in the morning, and that works really well. So I think if I can just insert some of that time there as well, that would be awesome. But we'll see. With that being said, I'll see you guys in my next video. Cheers.